Okay, thanks for coming back to part 2. So the first difference I want to illustrate is the difference between a random orbital and a forced rotation orbital. They're also called DA polishers, which stands for dual action. Why dual action? Because it spins and it rotates on a cam. So it's meant to reflect or duplicate your hand doing this. Rub on, rub off. Okay. This Griot's Garage, and this is kind of the good news for me, is that I've recommended this as my first choice in random orbital polisher. It's random because I can turn this on, and you see these marks. As you saw in my first video, I can force this to stop and not rotate. Now, based on the speed, you will increase the power, and the greater the speed setting, the harder it will be to stop that rotation. So if I put this on, let's say number 2, I can stop that rotation. It still vibrates, but I can stop the rotation. On a force rotation like the Flex 3401 or 3401, this, you cannot stop it. You would have to have like gorilla arms to stop it. It's like a rotary polisher. Once it's going, it's not stopping unless you pull that trigger off or you pull it off the paint. So that's a random. That's the difference. Random force rotation. So this still remains my first choice for probably 95% of you out there, whether you're a driveway detailer or whether you're an enthusiast, or whether you're just starting out getting into the business, because this will take you very far. And I know there's a lot of you that want to test the waters. You love cars, you want to get into the business, you don't want to put a bunch of money into it at the beginning because what if you fail? And then you just sunk all that money into it. So you want to test the waters and be effective, but you want to do it without breaking the bank. So to me, this remains the winning combination for me. And in part 3, because I've just decided there's going to be a part 3, I'll show you specifically what I did with this machine and why I came to the conclusion of why Darren was basically wrong. So we have this, and this is part of my thinking. Is this buffer is a DeWalt, and you can find it on my website. Look at the links in my description box of these videos. It's got what's called a soft touch, which means if I barely tap the trigger, it will start slowly and work up to full speed. And you have the speed settings here. So because of these new buffers, I can set it to an extremely low RPM, which is 600 RPMs. That is super low. That is slower than that thing if I had it on like a traditional setting. So at 600 RPMs, it would be, I would literally have to try to burn edges and burn the paint. And that's where you need to understand the limitations. So if I had to put them in order, this would be the winning combination for most people starting out, and you can go very far with it. But it still will be limited because it cannot generate the friction that is required to do certain types of polishing. Gel coat restoration is one of those. RV, fiberglass siding, whatever. So this is good. The Flex force rotation to me is better, and it will take you further because you will be able to cut to the chase quicker as far as removing sanding marks, doing paint correction, because the rotation is forced. And to me, this is best, but that's best based on me. I grew up using a rotary. So anything past that has just been icing on my cake. The fact that now it can start at 600 RPMs, I can do all my finished polishing with this. But I carry both with me because this is so light and so easy to use. I can use it with one hand. This is heavier. Certainly it's heavy enough where I would not really ever choose to use it with one hand. Yes, I've demonstrated it using it with one hand, but that's because the pressure was such that it was not going to break my elbow off to do it. So there's all these trade-offs, and that's where it's a very complex subject, and that's why I've resisted talking about it despite all the people that write in and communicate with me through my websites and so forth. It's like, Darren, I want to know polishing. I want to know polishing. I know, I get it. It's glamorous. It's cool. Everyone wants to know paint correction and polishing. But you can go really far and you can make money without learning polishing. Or you can just do paint enhancement, which that is such a generalization. What's the difference between paint enhancement and true paint correction? Well, that's like tomato versus tomato. It's like, well, I don't know. What's paint correction? How do you define paint correction? Well, you're correcting something. Well, see, it's all these ambiguous terms that confuses people, and that's what I really get frustrated about, is that people will pull things out of context and they'll discuss or debate things in isolation, but nothing exists in isolation. There's all these factors: price point, speed, the weight of the machine. Do you ever want to be able to do gel coat restoration? Are you interested in doing paint enhancement or paint correction? So there's so many variables to take into consideration, and it just makes my head want to spin off. So in order to try to simplify it, I get sucked into that area of oversimplification on a subject that really is very complex if you really want to make a true informed decision. And that's what I'm trying to help you guys do, is make an informed decision. And in the meantime, I'm constantly pushing myself. It's like, I'm going to prove myself wrong today. So tune into video number 3, and I'm going to show you what I did.